Feel the energy. I mean, it is a thing when you talk about having a six man, so to speak. Crowd energy. It gives you a lift. It gives you a boost. It's why we all do what we do, like to feed into these kinds of environments. And so it was a lot of fun. You know, I think for the WNBA and the opportunities that we have to bring our game to areas.
Caitlin Clark showed up, and everything changed. A reloaded roster, championship vets, and sky-high expectations have the league on edge. But what's happening behind the scenes, around the world, and inside the media will leave some people scrambling to rewrite their narrative.
The biggest thing for me is just I feel like I have experience in this league. I know what to expect. I know how training camp works, even though we have a new coach and I have a lot of new teammates. Like, just having that experience of how things operate, I think, has provided me with a lot of confidence.
The hype wasn't just big, it was blinding. Cameras were flashing, fans were lined up, and Caitlin Clark hadn't even broken a sweat yet. This wasn't just another day at training camp. This felt like a movement. And the truth? The Indiana Fever aren't just building a team, they're building a juggernaut.
Wow! You bet! From beyond the logo!
Only 5 players returned from last season's squad. Everyone else? Gone. Replaced by seasoned champions, defensive anchors, and gritty leaders who know what it takes to win. And at the center of it all stands Caitlin Clark, no longer a rookie, no longer doing it alone. This roster didn't show up to play. They showed up to dominate. And anyone pretending that this isn't the most dangerous team in the league is lying to themselves. This team is making history in real time. Don't be the one who hears about it second. Subscribe so you never miss a moment.
He said the Fever made their first cuts on Monday, bringing the roster down to 13 with just over a week left in training camp. They'll likely need to make 2 more cuts, just like I stated, to finalize the opening day roster.
But let's be real, the league didn't want this. Not at first. Last season, the media tried to bury the hype. Clark was too cocky, too flashy, too polarizing. But now, that same media is scrambling to switch sides. Suddenly, national broadcasts are stacked with Fever games. NBA arenas are opening their doors. Everyone's pretending they saw it coming. But the receipts don't lie, and it's obvious who's jumping on the bandwagon way too late. What makes this even more dangerous is what's behind Caitlin now. Natasha Howard, Dewana Bonner, Bree Turner. These aren't role players, they're killers on the court. Players who win games in the trenches. Last year, Clark was throwing perfect dimes to teammates who couldn't finish. Now, she's surrounded by legit scorers who can take over if she's triple teamed. If you thought she was lethal before, you haven't seen anything yet. And the coach? Let's just say this, Stephanie White is everything last year's staff wasn't. Structured, smart, proven. She's already the front runner for Coach of the Year, and the season hasn't even started. She's putting an actual system around Clark, not just rolling the ball out and hoping she goes off. If that doesn't scare the rest of the league, it should.
She's going to help us, on the floor with her versatility, with her ability to run the floor, with her defensive prowess, rebounding the basketball, and gives us another weapon.
But here's the part no one wants to admit. Clark changed the WNBA, and not everyone was happy about it. Old heads like Cheryl Swoops, silenced, suddenly dropped from broadcasts and podcasts. Coincidence? Hardly. The league finally realized that fighting against their biggest star was a losing battle, and now they're quietly clearing the path for her takeover.
Trying to emulate it to not much success.
Ooh, Kate Martin hoping that cameras didn't catch it. How about Gabby Marshall? No. Kate Martin again. Oh, 0 for 2. And Caitlin Clark just showing why she is one of one, folks.
Because let's face it, Clark isn't just raising her game, she's raising the stakes for everyone. Her jersey sales are second only to Steph Curry in the NBA. Her preseason game sold out faster than some Taylor Swift concerts. Overseas fans are wearing Iowa shirts in Uganda. This isn't just a sports story, it's a global one. And if you're still pretending this is just middle America hype, you're either blind or bitter. And that bitterness? It's fading. Even former critics are switching up. Players like Courtney Williams and Lexi Brown are finally giving Clark her flowers because they know what's coming. A fully loaded Clark with veteran help, a championship coach, and a front office finally doing its job? That's not hype. That's a problem for the entire WNBA.
Finlay comes up with it. Here's Clark in transition where she's dangerous. Leaves it behind for Clark. Just kind of takes Layshia Clarendon with her and opens up. Rebound Clark. Here's just 1 of 5. How about fact? Finlay running the floor there. And the find there from Clark.
Hard to say. Clark head up, as always. Just run with it and finish it.
So while some teams are clinging to last year's standings and old narratives, the Fever are moving like a team on a mission. The chemistry is building, the confidence is real, and the window for doubting Caitlin Clark, that's slammed shut. Now it's just a question of how far she'll take this, and how many records she's about to rewrite in the process.
I want to see Caitlin Clark evolve as a player, but I want to see the Caitlin Clark we sent to Iowa. You know, a lot of people have been saying that she played off the ball at Iowa sometimes, but she still looked good.
Let's not sugarcoat it. The Indiana Fever cleaned house. Only 5 players made the cut from last season. The rest, shown the door. That wasn't by accident. It was a clear message. Mediocrity is no longer welcome. And while some fans might feel bad for the ones who didn't make it, here's the harsh truth. They weren't built for what's coming. The WNBA is evolving fast, and Indiana is done wasting time on potential. They brought in proven winners. Natasha Howard doesn't just show up, she takes over. She's a 3-time champ and former Defensive Player of the Year. She doesn't play soft, she doesn't take plays off, and she definitely doesn't need babysitting.
Like the things that we need to work on, the things that we also are already good at too. And just keep building. Every single day, just keep building.
Then there's DeWanna Bonner, one of the most respected veterans in the game. Leadership? Automatic. Scoring? Still deadly. Experience? Unmatched. These aren't role players joining Clark, they're the backbone of a championship run. While other teams are hoping rookies develop, the Fever are building a win-now empire. And those who couldn't keep up, well, they've already been replaced.
And that's short as well for Naz Hillman. Full court pass and the bucket. Putting some time in Maryland. I know that Chris.
But here's the real power move, hiring Stephanie White as head coach. This isn't some newbie trying to figure things out. This is a former WNBA Coach of the Year, someone who's coached in the finals, not just talked about it. Last year, the Fever collapsed late in close games. That's on coaching. And now, that excuse is gone. Stephanie's already the oddsmaker's top pick for Coach of the Year, and we haven't even hit game 1.
Right there, a little coin, a little taste. Wet your whistle, so to speak. Right? Make you some bread. Interesting. We still do not have legalized betting.
It's almost unfair how sharp this rebuild looks. No overseas fatigue, no injuries, no drama. Just hungry vets and a generational playmaker leading the charge. Meanwhile, some of the old guard still act like the league should revolve around them. But the reality? They're getting passed up, quietly benched, muted, pushed to the background as a new era rises. And Clark's not dragging anyone with her this time. But that wasn't the whole story. What's happening off the court might be even more telling. Next, the media shift, the missing broadcasters, and why critics are suddenly disappearing from the WNBA spotlight.
Take after negative take. And I'm already telling you, man, the season really ain't even got started yet. And we'd have heard way more positive takes this year than all of them last year, bro. I just got to keep it real. I mean, the takes last year.
The WNBA hasn't seen anything like this before. Preseason tickets vanishing in seconds, resale prices hitting concert levels, and NBA arenas opening up just to fit the crowds. Not for the finals, not for a rivalry game, just for one player. That's the Caitlin Clark effect, and it's leaving a lot of people uncomfortable. Let's be honest, this kind of demand wasn't supposed to happen. At least, not in the WNBA. We're talking about a preseason game against a Brazilian team most fans couldn't name. And yet, 15,000 seats gone, just like that. It wasn't even close. Fans who blinked missed it. And while most of the league is scrambling to figure out how to keep up, a few familiar voices are suspiciously quiet, almost like they don't want this to succeed. 6 teams, yes, 6, moved their regular season Fever matchups into NBA-sized venues, but only when Caitlin Clark comes to town. That tells you everything. They're not packing those seats for anyone else. Not for all-stars, not for league vets, just for one second-year player who was labeled overhyped by the same people now cashing in on her spotlight. That's not just growth, it's a full-on market shift. And the ones who doubted her? They're now watching from the sidelines as ticket sales and ratings explode without them. It gets worse for the haters. The Fever are leading the league in nationally televised games, 41 out of 44. No team even comes close. The networks know what they're doing. They're not betting on balance or parity, they're betting on Clark. And while the league tries to act like this is just business as usual, the real story is obvious. Caitlin Clark is the only reason half the country is finally watching women's basketball. But here's where it gets uncomfortable. The same analysts who once downplayed her impact are now forced to report on sold-out arenas and record-breaking viewership. And not all of them are handling it well. The bitterness is starting to show. Some are posting snarky tweets, others quietly disappearing from broadcasts altogether. It's like the league is cleaning house, and the ones who couldn't hide their jealousy are being pushed out first. But that wasn't the whole story, because what's happening behind the scenes might just expose how deep the league's shift toward Clark really goes. It was only day one, but it didn't look like it. The Indiana Fever hit the court with the kind of energy and chemistry most teams pray for in the middle of the season. And leading the charge was Natasha Howard, making her presence felt immediately on defense. Blocks, hustle, communication, she did everything last year's team lacked. If you blinked, you missed a defensive clinic. This wasn't sloppy or slow. This was calculated, fast, and sharp. And Clark? She looked free for the first time in a Fever jersey. No longer boxed in by lazy spacing or flat-footed teammates, Caitlin moved like the floor finally belonged to her. You could see it in the way she read the defense, split traps, and fired lasers to wide-open shooters. It wasn't even fair. And let's talk about that offense, because this wasn't just Caitlin Clark pulling off magic. This was spacing, timing, movement. The kind of setup elite guards dream about. Players actually finished her passes this time. No more blown layups. No more wasted assists. This was what happens when you give a top-tier playmaker real weapon. And it's exactly why defenders are about to get cooked all season. But here's what no one expected. This team already looks connected. It didn't feel like a new group. It felt like they'd been running sets together for months. And that's what makes this scary. Chemistry was the only thing critics had left to nitpick. But if the Fever are already clicking like this on day one, that excuse is gone, too. And what happened next would shock everyone, because Caitlin didn't just lead the drills, she closed camp by hitting a game winner that had the gym erupting. The message was loud and clear. This team isn't waiting to figure it out. They're here. They're ready. And the rest of the league better keep up, or get left behind. Let's just say it, Caitlin Clark is already in the MVP conversation. And the season hasn't even started yet. That's not hype. That's a warning, because the people who used to roll their eyes at her name, now they're whispering about what happens if she takes over the league in year 2. The scary part? She might already be ahead of schedule. Analysts aren't pulling this out of thin air. Clark shattered the single-season assist record as a rookie, and she did it while carrying a bottom-tier roster on her back. Think about that. She made a team that finished dead last year before actually watchable. Now imagine what happens when you give her a real coach, real teammates, and a summer to get stronger. Spoiler, defenses are about to get embarrassed. The strength training is no joke either. Clark added serious muscle in the offseason. She's not just a shooter now, she's a physical problem. Players who bumped her last year won't be able to push her around anymore. She's quicker, sharper, and stronger than ever. That alone has some teams rethinking how to even guard her. And if you still think she's just a Logo 3 highlight machine, you haven't been paying attention. What's wild is how fast the narrative flipped. Last season, they said she was flashy but not efficient. They blamed her turnovers on decision-making, never on her teammates fumbling wide-open looks. But the numbers tell a different story. Missed layups, botched passes, wasted assists, it was all on the people around her. Now that she's got actual finishers beside her, her stat line might break the internet. And here's what no one wants to admit. Some of these veterans don't want her to win MVP. Not because she's not good enough, but because if she does, it proves everything they tried to downplay last year. That she is the face of the league. That the fans do show up for her. That she's not just part of the story, she is the story. And if she dominates this year, they won't be able to pretend otherwise. But that wasn't the whole story, because the league's sudden praise for Clark, it's exposing something deeper, and the timing of who's being pushed out is no coincidence. There's a reason this team doesn't look like a rebuild. It's because behind the highlight passes and sold-out arenas, the Indiana Fever have something that most teams pretend to have, a real locker room. No ego battles, no fake leadership, just vets who've won before, stepping in and setting the tone from day one. DeWanna Bonner didn't come here to babysit. She came to lead. And when someone like Bonner talks, you listen. She's not handing out soft advice, she's laying down championship standards. Natasha Howard? She backs it up on the court. You can see it in the way the team responds to her energy. Every loose ball, every defensive stand. These women are locked in, and they're not waiting for chemistry to magically appear, they're building it themselves. And while other teams are still figuring out rotations, the Fever are figuring out who wants it more. Practices have edge, film sessions have focus. And Caitlin Clark? She's fitting in perfectly. She's not being asked to carry the culture, she's learning from people who've already built it. That's what makes this so different from last year's mess. This isn't just talent, it's a system with teeth. But not everyone's happy about it. You've got former players and loud critics who used to say Clark wouldn't last in the pros, that she'd clash with vets, that she wouldn't earn respect. Now, those same vets are mentoring her, lifting her up, protecting her. And the people who predicted drama are looking real quiet right now. And what happened next would shock everyone, because the same critics who doubted the Fever's chemistry are now watching from the sidelines as this team steamrolls into the season with one mission: win everything and silence everybody. Isn't it funny how fast people switch sides when the spotlight shifts? A few months ago, Caitlin Clark was being downplayed, mocked, and talked about like she didn't belong. Now, the same voices who once criticized her are either praising her or mysteriously vanishing from the scene. Look at the receipts. Cheryl Swoops, once a regular on-air voice and known for her anti-Clark takes, is suddenly off the Dallas Wings broadcast team. She's also no longer part of the Women's Hoops podcast, a show that some fans bluntly called a Caitlin Clark hate fest. Coincidence? Maybe. But with how fast this all happened, it feels more like a cleanup. And she's not the only one. Cindy Brunson, another critic who made headlines for throwing shade at Clark, is also no longer calling games for the Phoenix Mercury. These aren't just random exits. These are voices the league doesn't want front and center anymore, because now, the brand has changed. The WNBA has finally realized who's driving ticket sales, headlines, and national broadcast. And it's not the old guard clinging to the past. Meanwhile, legends like Lisa Leslie, Diana Taurasi, and Cheryl Miller are now openly supporting Caitlin. Even players who used to stay silent are speaking up. Lexi Brown, Courtney Williams, they're all starting to acknowledge what's been obvious for a while. Clark isn't just talented, she's historic. And no one wants to be remembered as the one who doubted her when she changes the game. This shift isn't about fairness, it's about survival. If you're not aligning with the Caitlin Clark wave, you're being left behind. Because while some were busy complaining about her fans and accusing her of being overhyped, Clark kept winning, kept breaking records, and kept proving every critic wrong, one sold-out arena at a time. But that wasn't the whole story, because the league isn't just cleaning house, it's making sure the next generation knows exactly who's at the center of this revolution. This isn't just a breakout year, this is a takeover. Caitlin Clark's reach has exploded past the league, past the country, and now, it's worldwide. From Uganda to Australia, people are rocking Iowa gear. That's not normal, that's not just hype, that's cultural shift. And it's leaving the WNBA scrambling to keep pace with the phenomenon they never saw coming. While the league once acted like she was just a ratings boost, now she's being compared to the early Bulls dynasty. Think about that. Not just because she wins, but because she moves culture. You've got kids overseas who've never watched a WNBA game in their lives asking for Fever jersey. She's turning local interest into international obsession, and doing it faster than anyone expected. And here's what makes it even crazier. The Fever are starting to look like that early Bulls squad. Young, dangerous, well-coached, and led by a once-in-a-generation player who can do it all. The media used to laugh at those comparisons. Now they're the ones making them. Why? Because the numbers don't lie. Jersey sales, TV ratings, packed arenas, Clark's shadow is growing, and it's swallowing the league whole. But you know who hates that comparison? The old heads. The former stars who thought this moment would be theirs. They see the headline, they see the global attention, and deep down, they know they never had this kind of pull. So instead of celebrating the rise, some tried to minimize it, tried to frame it as a middle America thing. But when girls in Africa are wearing Hawkeye t-shirts, that excuse falls apart fast. And what happened next would shock everyone, because this might be the last season where the WNBA has a choice in how it handles Caitlin Clark's impact. Either embrace it and go global, or get left behind by the very audience they pretended didn't exist. The hype is real, and the warning signs are clear. Caitlin Clark and the Fever aren't just here to compete, they're here to take over. From a stacked roster to global buzz, this season could be the WNBA's turning point. So if you're ready to witness the rise of a dynasty, hit that subscribe button and don't miss what's coming next.